Hello. Last week, the High Court granted permission for a judicial review of the government's decision to drop rules around age verification on pornography sites. Father of four, Ioannis Dekas, and student Ava Vakel successfully argued that the government had failed to introduce the rules, despite having brought in a law to do exactly that 4 years ago. The 2017 Digital Economy Act requires commercial online pornography sites to have robust age verification controls in place to prevent any under 18s from accessing the sites. But in 2019, the then Culture Secretary Nicky Morgan said the measures would not go ahead, but instead be included in the government's wider online harms bill being brought in later this year. Now the High Court has allowed judicial review of that decision on the grounds that on the issue of age verification, the new law could be weaker than the one it claims to replace. Well, that father of four, Ioannis Dekas, is with me now. Ioannis, thank you for joining me today. Very much appreciate that.
Thanks, Kieran. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Right, you want the government to implement proof of age for access to pornography, right? And which is something that it promised in the 2017 Digital Economy Act.
I remember very clearly being on the train back from central London, reading that in the newspaper. And as a father of four boys, wanting them to grow up in a society and in an environment, but also with a worldview that brings honor and respect into all relationships. And knowing the dangers that pornography could potentially bring into, children growing up in a healthy society. I was sitting reading that on the train and thought to myself, this is such a good thing. There's a measure of personal responsibility, which I believe is necessary for every parent to take in terms of pornography and access, online access, especially in the world that we now live in post-COVID, with children having much more access to internet than what they probably previously did. But I remember thinking this is such a good thing because this is another barrier in the process. As parents who want to be responsible, I think this is another one of those moments that I deeply celebrated, only to discover later that obviously, as you said, it hasn't been implemented by the government.
And your concerns stem from a personal situation with one of your sons, isn't that right?
Yes, that's it was a deeply personal experience that we as a family that caused us to venture down this path. Last year during one of the lockdowns, we each had moments in the family where we noticed, we were under strain, we were frustrated by the lockdowns, the loss of privilege, the loss of, social contact, had impacted us all along the way. And there was a moment when we noticed in one of our sons that there was a change. It was over a period of 2 to 3 weeks where he started withdrawing. He was isolating himself. There was a measure of anger and lashing out. We've got 4 boys, so we know and understand sibling rivalry, who sits where and who's the biggest piece of cake. And
sure, yeah.
This was different. There was something else about this that actually, when we spoke about that, my wife and myself, we felt maybe he was, just struggling really deeply with the COVID situation, lockdown, not being able to see his friends. And then we had a phone call from the school that he attends, saying that there was access, or there was an attempt to access pornography from his school device.
Okay, right.
Which was a huge shocking experience for us. It was a sobering moment. It was a very difficult conversation. We had a very intensive conversation with the school trying to suss this out, which then led to a series of conversations, obviously, in our home. As we were journeying through this, trying to bring resolve and trying to help our son now in the situation as a family, having to work through this, we then discovered that the Digital Economies Act Part 3, this thing that I read on the newspaper and I remember so vividly, that was never enforced. And there was a moment when we felt as a family, how can we turn this thing that has become a really bad thing for us as a family, how can we turn this into a really good thing? Recognizing that there are children all across the nation who probably do this. Subsequently, I've learned that 60% of 11 to 13-year-olds that access pornography across our nation actually do so accidentally. which was, in his case, the issue. He'd heard something, one of the boys were talking, and he searched up a term. It led him onto a path, and that's how he ended up accessing the pornography website. Had age verification been in place, that would have been a massive deterrent. And again, I realize this is not the only barrier that, that I think is important for us. When the Secretary of State announced the online harms bill, that was a very positive thing for us. But the online harms bill only addresses the issue of social media websites. So, if you go onto a social media site, somebody posts a photo of their dog and, a great birthday party, and then somebody uses that platform to post content that is completely inappropriate. And so the online harms bill addresses that part. And as a parent, I'm deeply supportive of that and very excited about that. What the online harms bill does not address is the issue of age verification. And why that's important for me, Kieran, is because we do age verification in a number of different areas that we recognize this brings harm to children. We do it in alcohol, we do it in smoking, we do it in movies, in gambling. You can't enter a competition on the radio if you're not 18 years or older. But in the area of pornography, we don't. And I think that's where the gap was for us.
Do you feel let down that the thing that would have helped was there in 2017 and is still yet to actually be brought in place 4 years later?
I do feel let down. I do feel let down as a parent, but I think what perhaps intensifies that even for me more is the amount of conversations I've had subsequent to this whole case going public. Emails from parents across the nation, conversations at the school gate have changed, next to the cricket field where our boys play. We've had so many different conversations with parents saying, thank you so much that you spoke up, and this is our story. And so, over the last few months, we've been confronted with story after story after story after story, some of which were absolutely hair-raising, and recognizing the incredible danger that this actually brings. In the wake of Sarah Everard's death and the connection people made in that case to the links to pornography, I think highlights for us a recent research that the government itself actually did on this. Just helps us understand the incredible dangers that pornography and exposure to pornography at a young age actually brings to boys and girls' lives. And so, I do feel let down. I think parents across the nation ought to be making their voices heard in this regard, because some of the stories that we've been exposed to have just been absolutely horrific. And I recognize something needs to be done in this area.
So you've had a lot of people speaking to you personally and just saying how supportive they are of what you're doing. That must be encouraging. And I suppose then that you must be delighted that the High Court has now agreed that the government does have a case to answer.
We didn't know which direction it was going to go, but I was absolutely delighted on Wednesday when we were in court. There was the judge basically recognizes that it's arguable that the government has not done what they said they would in this regard, and something needs to be done in order to protect our children better in this area.
Okay, and there's plenty of steps still to come, and I know that you're looking for crowdfunding to help you with this. Well, thank you so much for your time, Yanni. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Kieran.